What was the first thing you watched on YouTube? Sorry, that's not a useful question for what I'm asking. Like, the first thing I watched was a Happy Tree Friends episode, the one with the hot air balloon and the windmill. We had just gotten new, faster internet, at least by the standard of 2007, and so that's the first thing we tested it out on. But that's not what I'm asking. What I mean is, what was the first thing you waited for? What was the first thing on YouTube that you were consciously aware of as a series, that more was coming? Maybe it was the Yogscast, or maybe it was PewDiePie's old Amnesia stuff. Maybe you wondered what Prestige was in Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, so you Googled it only to get led to Chris Smoove's old video called Why Prestige, leading you on your first steps of YouTube Let's Players, a journey that I can still mentally track to this day like the world's best kept and weirdest family tree. What was the first channel that you subscribed to? What was the first channel that made you think, yeah, I want more of that, actually? And I would like it to pop up here, in this special feed made just for me. Before the algorithm, back when sub count really mattered a lot, and subscribing to a channel really meant wanting more. I mean, it still does, despite what some people might say, but it really felt like something special back then. I remember mine. It was the first channel I saw that, if kid me knew what to look for, what any of it meant, would have signaled what this platform could be. It was the first thing I saw that wasn't just like date_.mov or some little shitpost back before they had that name. It was like a thing with consistency and rigidity in its execution and actual quality. And during its lifetime, it would put out over 300 episodes, all bangers, back to back to back to indefinite back bangers. It's a channel that's pilot episode, now 16 years old, has comments from 7 years ago talking about how great the show had been back in the day. Even though from our perspective, that comment is now back in the day. Maybe you already know that I'm talking about, is it a good idea to microwave this? The first great series on YouTube. On July 1st, 2007, the channel JPizzle1122 uploaded what they called their pilot episode, a short video of the host, Jory Karen, explaining to the camera, manned by Jonathan Paula, that while they were getting ready to clear out of their college dorm, they had found 6 microwaves abandoned in the building and intended to unlock their true potential.
And we've decided to test them, see what they can really do.
Now, while this was the first video in the microwave series, it wasn't even anything close to the first video on the channel. Uploaded as near as the same day, the JPizzle1122 channel was uploading, well, basically anything. This is what YouTube was back then, essentially just a personalized portfolio of memories and shitposts with no consistency or pattern. One day we're exploring the USS JFK, the next day a musical lobster sings Elvis. And that's just what it was, that's what this platform was, until these two dudes put a light bulb in a microwave and never looked back. The premise of the show is delightfully simple in a way that only a handful of college boys with no supervision could come up with. We took some microwaves that people left behind when they moved out, and we threw stuff in them. Despite that simplicity, however, it really feels like Jory and Jonathan knew that they had something good on their hands, because even the first episode features an introductory title card sequence, which means they must have recorded at least a few of these episodes before putting the first one out. There was no testing the water with a trial episode. They had already committed to the idea, which was admittedly probably easy to do, given, again, the simple nature of the idea. The execution of the idea is also worth talking about, especially in these early days. Jory explains that they've constructed a tinfoil shield for the purpose of avoiding scorching their junk, as well as having 2 fans set up, assumedly pointed out open windows, to act as a low-tech ventilation system to avoid any hazardous gas buildup as a result of just throwing things like plastic into a microwave. Finally, they had a remote guiding arm, which the astute among you might notice is just a broom Jory is holding to poke at the microwave with from behind the junk preserver. Of course, you would need to be astute to notice it because this video peaks at 240p quality. That's just what we had back then, and we were grateful for it. None of this 1440p 60 FPS that we take for granted today. Even seeing things on screen still left plenty for the imagination. From the other side of the shield, Jory explains that while the shield is basically invulnerable, there is a small gap from which they will be able to view the microwave, ensuring that if anything goes wrong,
I will only lose my eyes.
spare the junk, spoil the eyes. Or something. I've never been sure what that saying's supposed to mean. Don't explain it in the comments, I like not knowing. The light bulb goes in, our hosts fall into cover, and the microwave, activated by the remote guiding arm, goes on. Instantly, the light bulb begins displaying an array of incredible colors, unlike any seen on Earth. The blinds may have been pulled low, but no amount of cover could ever restrict the light show going on inside this microwave. Oh, the bulb shattered. Engage remote guidance. Kill the microwave. Microwave specialist Jory advises they clear the area for a time to let all that light bulb gas clear out, which might seem silly. Like, how dangerous can a broken light bulb be? Like, actually, though, how dangerous can a broken light bulb be? Oh, thanks, Michigan.gov. Anyways, it might seem silly, but I also think it's worth noting that even in these early days, these guys actually had some sense of safety when it came to the show. Sure, the Shield and the fans might feel a little goofy, but it's representative of the sense that, like, maybe there could actually be some sort of danger to this, which there was occasionally. Don't let me forget about that. But it also came with this sense of taking it seriously, despite the comical pretense of the show, and that was a huge part of what made the show work. They had an upload schedule, and Jonathan, who still replies to comments on their old episodes, makes the pretty reasonable claim that they were the first ever multi-camera show present on YouTube, as well as being the first series to publish in widescreen, which YouTube as a platform wouldn't see a switch to until years later. And I think so much of this was made possible because John's time at Emerson College, where these first episodes were shot, was spent studying television production and radio broadcasting. Sure, he was putting these episodes together on a home-scale budget, but he had the big-time knowledge on education on how to build a show. It's essentially the ancient version, at least by YouTube standards, of how even the first episode of Binging with Babish, the cooking show hosted by Andrew Ray, had basically perfect shot composition because before he made Binging, he was a professional editor for all sorts of freelance documentaries. Anyways, now that the room is cleared out, at least kind of,
But it kind of smells like someone burnt ramen, so...
Jory ventures into that brave unknown to see what's become of the light bulb. He holds up the shattered remains and somberly explains that
It won't work anymore.
it made a cool light show, but he laments that it's probably not a good idea to microwave a light bulb, which brings us back to the titular premise. What is and isn't a good idea to microwave? Now, in those early days, the idea of an item being good or bad to stuff into a microwave was more to do with if that item had some sort of beneficial or productive result or reason for being stuffed into said microwave. However, most of the things used for the microwave experiments in the show were not food things, and because non-food things typically don't have a beneficial or productive outcome to being microwaved, the judgment slowly shifted over time towards spectacle, or what produced the best show, unless there was danger involved. Which there sometimes was, don't let me forget about that. The first season of the show ran for 18 episodes, all taking place within the empty dorm at Emerson College. The majority of these episodes are exclusively manned by just Jory and John, with the exceptions of episodes 7, 8, and 9, these being experiments on ketchup packets, a VHS tape, and toothpaste. All bad ideas, if you were curious. Wherein they were joined by friend Zach Schiffman, who provided some general voiceover as well as a little bit of on-camera presence during the VHS episode. Number 8 is particularly special because this is the first time the line, "No one likes roasted nuts," is said, a new version of the pilot episode's call-out about scorching their junk, and this line would essentially become the tagline for the show as a whole, reappearing in basically every episode in future seasons. And speaking of future seasons, Season 2 of the show saw the relocation out of Emerson College's dorm rooms and into John's own home. It also sees a more genuine establishing of the show's format, an introduction at a table full of items about to be microwaved with a few spoken lines from Jory or some banter with any co-host or guest who might appear on the show. The tinfoil shield is now a tinfoil reinforced door, the microwave is now set in an open garage with a more comprehensive ventilation system, and an emergency shutoff in the form of a power strip taped to the inside wall that the microwave is plugged into. Additionally, this season sees them joined by Ezra Horn, a longtime friend of Jonathan Paula and the proud first subscriber to the J Pizzle channel. The first episode of the season involves the triple threat combo of a light bulb, soy sauce packets, and toothpaste, some of the team's favorite items from Season 1, all together, as a way of prepping the microwave for what's about to come. Of course, nothing could prepare the brave microwave, named Diane, the first microwave with a name on the show and the one that started the tradition of microwaves having names, for what would come at the season finale of Season 2. Episode 44, Dynamite. Now that might seem like a jump from light bulbs and toothpaste, but as the season ramped up, so too did the items as we approached the end of the season. Episode 41 was charcoal, which despite the bag claiming as no lighter fluid needed, only caught fire after the application of lighter fluid in tinfoil, followed by a lighter in episode 42 and a can of Axe body spray in episode 43, with a small flame from the lighter and a delightful little boom that tripped the fuse on the power strip from the body spray. With a little blaze and boom under its belt, surely Diane is prepped for the dynamite. Man, 2007 was a different time. RuneScape was at its peak, and you could just explode things in an empty field with dynamite you got from your dad. And no one was hurt, which is incredible, because this is one of the few episodes with real danger. We're still going to talk about that, don't let me forget. And on the murder of Diane the Microwave, that's not a joke by the way, the wiki literally lists her as killed, we move on to Season 3 and a continual increase in show quality. While Jory spent the majority of Season 2 playing a bit of a dry, monotone character, a joke that John has said no one ever got, Season 3 sees our host dropping the character a bit in favor of a more natural presentation style, which I think helped the show really find its footing in regards to its growing quality. Season 3 also sees us with a new microwave named Sandra, chosen after a fan credited as Mr. Blank 79 suggested the name, as well as a new friend, Ryan Lewis, who was present for episodes 45 through 62, with Ezra making a late-game reappearance in the final 2 episodes, 74, Batteries, and 75, Special Rechargeable Batteries. This was also the first season that required 2 different microwaves. Sandra did her best, but finally met her fate when she was tasked with microwaving the final remains of Diane, which is kind of fucked up given the personification of the microwaves throughout the show. It was theorized by a handful of fans at the time that what killed Sandra was the magnetron from Diane producing its own alternating microwaves, which sounds sciencey enough to be true. After her death, she was replaced by Helga, a strong name for a hopefully strong microwave, and this new strong microwave also ushered in a strong new era, because her introductory episode, number 63, was the first time the show was uploaded in 480p, signaling an end to the show's humble 240p origins. Helga survived until the end of the season, although the aforementioned rechargeable batteries in episode 75, the season finale, broke her turning plate after they caught fire. A broken plate wasn't enough to stop Helga though, and she powered through into season 4, which all true fans know as the loneliest season, because this was the only season that Jory and John did not have some form of guest or co-host. Despite this, season 4 was the show really moving into its final form in terms of quality. At this point, the layout for the show was cemented, and Jory was reaching a real comfort zone when it came to his abilities and presentation as a host. Any semblance of playing a character was dropped, and this was just Jory and John as 2 friends throwing stuff in a microwave and seeing what happened, but with real style and presentation. The safety of the show was also beginning to hit a real standard with the continued presence of the tinfoil shielded door, as well as actual N95 masks and lab goggles. And the season started strong, with a portable TV microwaved while it was playing. Great sparks, an almost instant flame, and the continuing dominance of Helga as a strong, resilient microwave. It was also a great visual representation of the power of their ventilation system, although John does mention a growing inability to breathe.
I'm having trouble breathing.
Unfortunately, despite her strong start, Helga was tragically killed in action the next episode, as she was killed by the fireworks she was tasked with microwaving. Her death, while tragic, was the catalyst for some serious success, and this remains the 7th most viewed episode of the series, sitting at 2 million views. Helga was succeeded by Lacey, a GE turntable microwave that served as the show's main workhorse up to the incredible 100th episode, the Plasma Globe. On paper, it's a powerhouse of an idea. If the light bulb produced colors unlike any seen on Earth, then surely a plasma globe can take it even further. Unfortunately, the plasma globe barely even took it a single step, shattering almost instantly and filling the microwave with smoke, with no light show at all, a fate shared by episode 101, A Golf Ball. With 2 back-to-back lackluster episodes, it all came down to the season finale, the big 102, a MacBook laptop, donated by one Riley McElwain. Why do I say his name like that? It's called foreshadowing. But tragically, the microwave was unable to produce a real show, bringing Season 4 to a somber close. But if Season 4 closed on a somber note, then Season 5 opened with a real bang, with a new microwave, Vanessa, and a new friend, Riley McElwain, who you might remember from 3 sentences ago, who would serve as a permanent addition to the show until its end. Episode 103 was a jack-o'-lantern done for the Halloween special, with the special additions of ping-pong balls for the eyes. When the carved pumpkin appeared inert, however, the crew was determined to get a real show for the season opener, and they swapped out the pumpkin for a bunch of ping pong balls alone. And I mean, come on. Could you possibly ask for more? From there, the format was largely set, with each season getting a little more polished than the one before it, and each season standing on a well-built foundation. Riley quickly settled into his role as the sidekick, and by season 7, they were on episode 200, with a phenomenal light show brought on by over 100 light cubes. So, like, genuine epilepsy warning.
Holy shields are down.
While season 6 was comprised of just our new trio, it wasn't uncommon for seasons after to have special guest appearances, with both Ezra Horn and Ryan Lewis making return appearances in season 8 and 10, respectively. And Craig Benzine making an appearance for both season 7 as well as in a handful of bonus episodes post-season 10. And while some of these guests have their own channel and presence on the platform, Craig is unique because he's the only one you might recognize by a different name. Wheezy Waiter, whose first video dates back to June 10th, 2007, barely a month after the microwave show went live. Season 10 aired from April 4th to July 18th, 2011, and the final official episode, number 300, featured a propane tank and an old series star, Shelley, coming out of retirement for one final display. It's also the only episode, at least that I'm aware of, to feature a gun. Honestly, it's an entire episode of spectacle and pretty much no thought for safety given. As such, it's admittedly a pretty fun watch, even if it does have pretty big FPS Russia almost killing himself energy. And then, that's it. A bunch of friends say goodbye to a 4-year endeavor. They get to do the cool thing of calling their project closed while it's still good. They ran the full gauntlet from 240p to 1080p across different locations and labs, and best of all, no one was ever hurt. But there were some close calls, which means it's time to talk about the danger. Thank you for reminding me. You're so good to have around. Because season 7 played host to the most dangerous episode they ever shot, the airbag. The airbag currently sits at the second most viewed microwave episode, second only to the spray paint, which, despite its pretty impressive blaze, fortunately never burst. The airbag, however, did what airbags do. Now, if you'll remember back to the pilot episode and the remote guidance arm, you might have noticed that it was no longer present in episodes past season 2, where even then it had rare use. That's simply because the distance from the microwave to the tinfoil shielded door was just too long to make activating the microwave from a distance feasible. So for 5 seasons, Jory had been using man's oldest technique for getting into trouble, starting some shit and then running away as fast as possible. And for 5 seasons, it had worked. Until the airbag. Because the airbag exploded only 3 seconds into the experiment, with roughly a quarter second between the door being closed and the airbag exploding, sending debris everywhere, but specifically towards the door, which shattered one of the door's glass layers when it impacted right about where Jory's head had been half a second prior. But he was okay, and Riley's line joyously announcing that would be added to the intro slate for all future episodes. But while they were okay, it would be too little to not cover the Fulton Fire. The Fulton Fire was an incident that occurred on November 23rd, 2010, when a 12-year-old child started a fire in his apartment complex while microwaving items for his own YouTube channel. A fire that tragically killed the child's mother. Jonathan Paula, due to the natural connection to the content, took the chance to use the incident as a reminder that, despite the comical nature of the series' presence, it's really not something people should be doing. He acknowledges in a video on his personal channel that he'd been aware of copycat shows for some time, and though he couldn't know for certain if the child in question had ever seen the show he produced with Jory and Riley, given the show's popularity at the time and the highly related nature of the two channels, it's hard to imagine that the child was unaware of Jonathan's work. The idea was silly, but the idea was dangerous. And not even a year after the Fulton Fire, on that aforementioned July 18th, 2011, episode 300 aired, and the show officially ended. So where does this all leave us? Starting with the guests, there's basically nothing on Zach Schiffman. He was only around for 3 episodes, and given the prevalence of information in today's digital age, no information pretty much means there's no desire to have information out there, so I won't spend time trying to dig any up. Ezra Horn has a personal channel on YouTube, though it's essentially been silent for 9 years now. He mainly covered transit and cycling, and interacting with those things in the Los Angeles area. His backlog does include some vlogs from conventions, including a 2013 two-parter including Jory and John. Ryan Lewis is largely silent from what I can tell, though he is listed as being a member of the Righteous Television channel, though it last uploaded 13 years ago. Finally, Craig Benzine. Craig is the only member of the guest cast to maintain any up-to-date YouTube presence under the handle Wheezy Waiter. He's been making content fairly reliably for about 16 years now, and runs a pretty well-received vlogging channel under the identity of a bearded 40-something trying to be better at life, which I think is pretty chill. Main cast time. Jory currently runs a YouTube channel called Jory, though it's been silent for around 2 years, but the big premise of the channel was persimmons? He really wanted to like them, it seems, though for now it appears that he's stepped away from YouTube as a focus. Riley McElwain. His YouTube channel states that he puts out new videos 5 times a week, but there's no backlog, so either he deleted or privated all his content, which is fair. If we poke around a little though, we can find this video of him opening for Aerosmith on Guitar Hero, which is pretty much the coolest thing a YouTuber from that era has ever done. And finally, we've got Jonathan Paula, who's the easiest to track. Sometime after the microwave show ended, his channel, jpizzle1122, rebranded as Jogwheel, and he moved into the realm of movie and media review. He produced content in this vein for a few years, but 4 years ago, both Jogwheel and his personal YouTube channel, as well as his Twitch channel, went silent. If you poke around at his links enough though, you can confirm that he's still alive and active in his own personal way. But it seems just like with Jory and Riley, he's taken that step back and away from YouTube as a platform, at least for now. And honestly, I really respect that. These guys were huge, I think, for establishing what YouTube as a platform could look like, that this could be more than just weird videos uploaded from flip phones and camcorders. Sure, it was a show about blowing things up in a microwave, but with clean editing, multiple cameras, and quality that just kept pushing higher and higher. 16 years ago, way before established shows or long-form content or the established idea really of YouTube as a career, these guys showed the potential of what YouTube could be. They took a great idea, executed it well, and ended it when it was done. That's a really hard thing to do in content creation, to show what a platform is capable of via your own use of it, and then walk away when you're done with it. And I'm really glad they did it. Because 16 years later, here I am, making videos on that same platform, using in my own way the platform that they helped establish a culture for. That this was a place where people, not megacorps or celebrities, could thrive, making fun, homemade content in whatever format or genre that took. These three and their show helped establish YouTube as a platform that had potential as a real, actual thing, that this could be a platform for real, genuine, quality content made by normal, everyday people. And I really appreciate that they did that. So to Jory and Riley and John and everyone else who helped make the microwave show possible, thank you. I don't know what this platform would look like if you never helped show what it could be. So typically my outros are a little more structured than this, but I thought it would be fun to just improv one, and also I forgot to write one before I sat down to record, so hi, it's just you and me right now, with no script in between. Obviously, this video is a little bit different than my normal content. I've been trying to branch out a little bit with a few different ideas here and there, and this was originally supposed to be a video on the 2022 movie Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. The issue with that was, I got to about the end of the second page of my script, and I was only 5 minutes into the video. 5 minutes into the movie. Sorry, I was only 5 minutes into the movie. Which means it's probably going to be a pretty long script, so I needed to do something in between that and my last Dishonored project, which was like 2 weeks ago now at this point. Life has been pretty busy since that Dishonored video, and I really don't want to go 6 to 8 weeks before another video, so here's a deep dive into one of the oldest YouTube channels I know. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still here, then I really appreciate your attention for a different topic and genre than normal. If it was interesting, let me know in the comments. There's a few other ancient YouTube channels that I'm aware of that all have their own fun stories to talk about. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. And especially thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help make this sort of fun variety content feasible for me to make. If you want to see your name in the credits for these videos, get early access to these videos, as well as special releases for behind the scenes and director's commentary, then consider coming on over to my Patreon page and seeing if there's a tier that works for you.